Da Vinci's Mona Lisa is irrefutably one of the most famous paintings in the world. How did she get so famous? It wasn't until some ballsy dude stole her in broad daylight that blasted her image on every front page newspaper, thus catapulting this painting into true fame. Find out how this bold theft took place, who did it, and why Pablo Picasso was arrested as one of the suspects. Next on Technically a Conversation. Greetings, super friends. Welcome to another episode of Technically a Conversation. Here, we'd like to share an interesting topic with each other, which we've recently learned, and hope you find it interesting too. I'm one half of your host, Cicela. Joining me as always is my Bank Patrol buddy, Jose. How are you?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Good. I have a little tiny, recovering from a tiny bit of a cold, but hopefully nobody can tell.
I thought you were going to say you're recovering from a little bit of a bang incident.
Oh, well, that too. It's like I have this one part that just literally part that wants to like go over here, and then the other one just doesn't want to follow orders. It's going rogue.
And you got that one that's doing the alfalfa where it's just erect straight in the air.
That one I like. Yeah, that one's like a little flag that says, "Hey, I'm crazy and cool." I'm kidding. Brief reminder, we still have an opportunity for you to win your very own super cool, Technically a Conversation t-shirt. Closing in that gap. Tell them what they got to do, Jose.
It's really easy. Just leave us a review and send us a screenshot to one of our socials. We're at Greetings TAC everywhere.
Cool.
We'll read it on the show. And once we get 25 reviews, we'll do a drawing and give the winner a sexy Technically a Conversation t-shirt. So check out technicallyaconversation.com or the show notes for all the deets. And to those of you that have already left us a review, thank you.
Thank you guys so much. And I think you definitely want to submit your reviews because that sexy is getting a little crazy. Just kidding. Any more episodes and this thing's going to take a minute. Shout out time. The loyal and the royal. Don't we love them both? The queens, Elena and Erica. Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you for sharing our post on your social media.
Yes, it always helps, trust me.
Indeed.
I also wanted to say thank you to Big Brain Brex for reaching out and letting me know that he really enjoyed our anniversary episode. I'm glad to hear that people are still discovering that little gem.
Yeah, thank you so much for listening.
All right, now to get down for the goods. For this episode, I'm going to break a little bit of protocol. I'm going to have to give you a hint of what we're going to talk about.
Alfalfa.
How did you know?
Nice.
Shut up.
Nice, that alfalfa in my mind from your bang incident.
From my little hair thing. We're going to talk about a painting, and I'm going to tell you why I'm going to give you this hint. During my research, one of the podcasts that I listened to, they said, this painting is so famous. If you ask anyone to list the top 3 most famous paintings, most people would put this in the top 3. Now I want to put that to the test. Jose, you get to be the guinea pig. Let's hear the top 3 most famous paintings you think, anyway, are the most famous.
I would probably have to go with the Mona Lisa.
There you go. That's it. That's all I needed to know.
You don't need the other 2 guesses?
No, Mona Lisa is actually what we are going to talk about.
All right.
Wow. I guess they were right. That scared me more than anything else. I was like, whoa. Did I step on something? I'm just kidding. So quick question to you about the Mona Lisa. Just give me your thoughts about that particular painting.
I think it's nice. It's probably not my favorite painting, but, I could see why it's important and why, so many people flock to see it. I was very disappointed to hear that it's actually really small. It's not, you would imagine that it's a gigantic painting, but it's supposedly really small.
Yeah, I heard that it's like, it's definitely less than 2 feet. And yeah, it's like really small. So that kind of sucks a little bit. But maybe that's where all the great detail is. It's in the actual painting or something. I don't know. In full disclosure, I'm not even going to feign that I'm an art snob or I've even taken any kind of art appreciation class, although I would really love to. And I would still want to, actually. All I knew is she was painted really delicately, and the translucent veil, I couldn't get over that part. That was really baffling to me. I thought she looked super angelic and was like really alluring. But other than that, that was really it. That's kind of all I knew about the Mona Lisa. Although Da Vinci was well established as one of the greatest Renaissance painters, his Mona Lisa really wasn't bringing all the boys to the Louvre yard, so to speak, around the 1900s. When people walked in, they didn't really make a beeline to her as they do today. There was one event that launched the Mona Lisa into true fame and stardom. Her theft. Como? Yes, sir. We're going to talk about this audacious attack and exactly how this heist was pulled off. Pun intended. We'll also talk through the arduous investigations and how it was ultimately recovered. Fetch your beret, mon ami, because we're going to go to Paris in today's learning conversation.
Oui, oui.
Commençons notre voyage. Let's start our voyage. See, sometimes you're going to learn Spanish tidbits. Sometimes you're going to learn French. I keep it exciting. This information comes from a documentary I watched, Stealing the Mona Lisa, Art Theft of the Century. So y'all don't have to watch it. I'm just kidding. No, I actually do really recommend it. It was a really good documentary.
Is it on the Netflix?
It is on the YouTubes. We will provide a link to the show notes. Yeah. First, a tiny little bit of background. Today, about 6 to 10 million people visit the Louvre every year. Louvre's in Paris, which is why we were kind of speaking French.
Oui.
Or little tidbits of French.
Oui.
Oui. Naturally, most people want to see the most famous works like the Mona Lisa. But over 100 years ago, on both accounts, things were very, very different. There weren't a lot of visitors. And as previously mentioned, Mona Lisa wasn't as famous as she is today. I don't want anybody to get me wrong. In 1911, she was definitely considered a very great artwork. Everybody knew she was a masterpiece for those in the art world. But to us common homies, not so much. People seem to be darting to like Caravaggio and other big Renaissance painters back in that day. Thus, the security was more like the old man who's retired but still works 2 jobs, but he keeps a security job because he knows he could sleep on the job. It was more like that.
And he does it for the benefits.
Yeah. Maybe Social Security really sucked over there in France, too. Just kidding. Right off the bat, let's solve one mystery up front. I remember everybody kept saying, who's the Mona Lisa? Who is she? Blah, blah, blah. Well, it doesn't seem like that is a mystery anymore. Who she is her name is Lisa Gioconda. He started painting her sometime around 1503 to possibly 1507, but definitely took 16 years to finish, which could be why it never went to Lisa's family and it stayed with Da Vinci. That's the painting itself. Now you know the painting. Now you know the scene of the crime. Let's get into the heist, shall we?
Let's.
It was fairly early on Monday, August 21st, 1911, when the whole thing went down quietly. Sundays were really Fridays for the French, meaning those were really the big party days. Sundays, everybody was getting toe up, which means Monday morning, it was really common for a lot of people to be hungover, less aware, that kind of thing, which means it was timed pretty well. Also, the museum was closed on Mondays for the public, making this really well timed because there was a skeleton crew. 7 a.m., the maintenance director started his day, passed by the Mona Lisa, maybe even said a bonjour, right? Everything was normal. Then about an hour or so later, they said sometime around 8:30 for sure, he walked past and noticed that the painting was not there. Oddly, he saw the 4 iron hooks, didn't even alarm him, was like, no big deal. mostly because it was really commonplace for paintings to be taken down, cleaned, or photographed. That was a big project going on back then. Then they would put it back. I'm going to pause here because you mean to tell me that they can take down the Mona Lisa with no credentials, but I have to sign out a Dan Brown's Da Vinci Code book from my local library? It seems like really awful security. We can unpause now. They started to question its absence when a famous artist who would often paint replicas of other famous paintings. So it was mostly done for tourists and stuff like that. He was supposed to paint the Mona Lisa that day, but it wasn't there. So he asked the guard what happened to it. After going to the photography studio, no Mona Lisa. The search continued for a few hours, and they still remained hopeful, which is actually kind of funny, until shit got real. They found the frame and the protective glass casing in a nearby stairwell. What? Dun, dun, dun. That's when the realization hits. The Mona Lisa has been stolen.
Call the po-po.
Yeah, exactly. This felt like a punch to the art gut. It was a personal attack to the country. This is how the French felt. So they called in the big guns. Louis Lepine, the best and most important police detective in France. He's known to solve every case, real strong reputation. Think Sherlock Holmes meets Inspector Gadget or something like that. I mean, Inspector Gadget. I'm just kidding.
Well, so he had a little helicopter that popped out of his hat.
Wouldn't that be cool? He came into the museum with 60 detectives. Homie came to work, dude. It is only one day after the theft, and the story is all over the front pages of France. Very soon thereafter, the story is all over the world. Front page, obviously. This is headline type of stuff, right? There was even a headline in the Washington Post, something about the Mona Lisa's been stolen, basically. But they had the wrong picture on the cover. Pretty messed up. But that should also explain how not well known that picture was. That's like saying, Mickey Mouse is missing. And then they print a picture of Goofy instead.
That's what I would imagine that Mickey Mouse looked like had I not seen him.
To their defense, the painting that they did put on the Washington Post was called the Mona Vanna. So it kind of sounded similar-ish. I can kind of see it.
Plus 1910s, I'm sure Google wasn't as great as it is now, so it must have been harder to do a Google search.
Very good point. Thank you for pointing that out. Look, all my true crime lovers know the first 24 hours are the most critical, and Louis Lepine, of course, knew that. He interviewed everyone that was working that day, and two people really stood out. The maintenance director, it allowed Lepine to narrow down the hour and 5-minute window when it was stolen, because remember, he recounted somewhere between 7 a.m. it was there, 8:30 for sure, not there. The only other informative interview was a plumber who said that he saw another workman in his white smock uniform just sitting next to the door locked out, and the doorknob was oddly missing. The plumber asked about the doorknob. The other worker claimed to not know that he just got there or something like that. Thinking nothing of it, the plumber was like, "Oh, I'll unlock us," and they both walked out. He admitted he doesn't really remember what the worker looked like. He just knew that he was wearing the same white work smock like everybody else. So let's examine what they're really working with as far as details. You have one lame-ass interview, or one lame-ass witness, I should say, and a time frame. Speaking of frames, they do have the frame and the glass casing. Lepine is all about using new investigative tools, and one of the new investigative forensic tools were fingerprints. Yeah, that was not a thing, really. He was actually one of the first ones to use it in an investigation. They did find one good fingerprint, but they don't know which finger it is. And they would have to manually compare it to their current database, which was 750,000 cards. I mean, remember, there's no computers back then, right? So it's literal cards with all 10 fingers So, oh my God, que huevs, right? You have to compare 1 to 10 times 750,000 cards. That's crazy. Lapine knew he didn't have this time either and inspected the frame a little bit further just to see what else would pop out. He noticed how carefully the painting was removed. No damage to the frame. And the glass was also not broken. Thus, he started to build his criminal profile. It had to be an art lover. Someone who knew very well how special this painting was. At this point, the French papers are starting to get extremely scandalous with their conspiracy theories. According to History.com, one rumor was that the Germans stole it simply to humiliate the French, which is awful.
That's what I thought too.
Others said it must be a very rich American who ordered this heist. The documentary described a funny picture of like this mad rich man who wants nothing more to like sip and swirl his expensive cognac or brandy or something and admire his Mona Lisa. Not sure why, but to me it sounded like the person that they were looking for was like Dr. Claw or something.
Well, if they got Inspector Gadget on the case, it could very well be Dr. Claw.
Yeah, exactly. Gadget's on the case. You know, Dr. Claw's got something to do with it.
Dr. Claw's fucking around.
You know who was one of the suspects that fit his criteria, Louis Lapine's criteria?
Who?
J.P. Morgan. He was a rich art lover and American. He's got to be crazy enough to order this heist.
He's rich. He could make his own Mona Lisa. He could resurrect Leonardo.
All right.
Bring him back from the grave.
Yeah, exactly. After he was questioned, though, J.P. Morgan was probably like, Mona Lisa, esa vieja? Negative. Moreover, he offered $1 million of a reward to help recover the painting, which was really kind. Another person on the suspect list, also a rich art lover, fitting Lapine's criteria. 17 days into the theft, okay, this is where we're at right now. They arrested none other than Pablo Picasso. This is a great cliffhanger that we're going to cut to a commercial, and we'll pick it up when we come back.
Hey, I'm Will.
And I'm Kat. Oh, that was loud. Sorry.
If you love 1980s pop culture, you'll love 1980s Now. Each week, we discuss our favorite 1980s media.
Like movies, TV shows, music.
Yeah, we chat with our favorite 1980s celebrities. Let's see, we got a lot of those.
And sometimes it's more meaningful, like Affirmations with Dee Wallace.
And other times, Alex Winter tells us what Bill and Ted's phone booth smells like.
Smelly.
But it's always fun.
And sometimes there's a surprise game, like right now, because once again, it's time to play.
When you think of garbage, think of Aki.
No, I'm kidding.
Oh, darn. I thought you had something.
You don't have to miss the 1980s.
You can have your 1980s now.
Because that's the name of the show. You think people got that part?
Yes.
Hello, this is Lafayette.
And I'm Carlos from Nerds Talking the Podcast.
That's right.
Where we talk about everything from UFOs,
Yep.
comic books,
I like that.
movies, streaming services, conspiracy theories, ghosts, video games, and more.
Kick ass.
All on Nerds Talking the Podcast.
You can find us every Friday with new episodes on all digital platforms where you find your favorite podcast, Nerds Talking, the podcast.
Now back to the show.
And we're back live. I'm just kidding. I like to say that. How was your break, Jose?
Good. Just thinking about Pablo Picasso possibly stealing the Mona Lisa.
Isn't that wild? First of all, I don't even think I really understood when Pablo Picasso was alive, to be perfectly honest. So when I read this, or when I saw this detail, I was completely blown away. This is when he was alive and he was accused of stealing this great art piece. I don't know if I could really see it, but yeah, let's dive on in. So Pablo Picasso gets a surprise visit from the police. Guess what they found?
The Mona Lisa.
Well, not Senora Lisa, but they did find stolen statuettes from the Louvre. Ese loco ladrón. This crazy thief. I don't want to start rumors, so let me be clear. He did not steal the statuettes personally, but one of his bros, or not bros, but not brothers, right? Just his homies stole them for him. Not sure if that's any better though. Anyway, they were not as valuable. And again, not really what they were looking for. So vámonos, he was let go about 3 days later. Back to square one. Lapine timed a policeman getting a painting off of the hooks on the wall. They seemed to struggle a bit, taking about 5 minutes. When Lapine timed one of the workers, seconds. This led him to believe it was someone who worked, or at least previously worked, at the Louvre.
An inside job. It's always an inside job.
Those heists, you know how it is. Everyone had their fingerprints taken and compared. The current workers, no dice. So close yet so far. They did see that there was a subcontracting company that worked there. So all of those people were requested to come in for questioning. There was 5 of them. 4 of the 5 came in. Super sus. Who was Senor Sus? He was 29-year-old Vincenzo Perugia, an Italian migrant worker, not particularly well educated, had a criminal record with 2 arrests under his belt, big drinker, and poor. Side note, one of the documentaries that I was watching, after he said he was poor, he also added very poor. And I was like, hey, whoa, we get it. I felt a little unnecessary and mean. Coincidentally, one of Perugia's arrests was theft. But still, Louis Lapine dismissed the idea of the thief being Perugia because he didn't fit the criteria. In fact, one could probably say this was the exact polar opposite of someone sophisticated and wealthy and artistic, all the things that he was looking for. A detective went to investigate him anyway because Lapine really didn't have any other leads. Vincenzo had a solid alibi of working all day, and the detectives found nothing. Again, Lapine threw out the idea because he didn't fit the profile, and things and time went on. The French, like I said, had taken this as an assault. Like this was on par to someone slapping the queen with a baguette. Something had to be done. Therefore, 2 newspaper companies offered their own rewards as well for its safe return. And rewards always bring out the liars. Coincidentally, a ton of people start claiming to have the Mona Lisa. A different article on history.com stated that sighting claims were anywhere from Brazil to Japan to even Russia. None, of course, were true. The French were devastated. Okay, hear me out before you judge what I'm about to throw down. There are some parallels to when someone great in the industry dies. For example, let's say Kurt Cobain. When he died, those in the industry knew what a treasure he was and how he changed music, leaving an indelible mark. Yet, as soon as he died, everyone comes out of the woodworks praising him, almost claiming to have seen his genius even back then. Does that kind of make sense? Like now everybody's like, oh my God, she's beautiful. She's amazing. Oh no, we're never going to see her again. Put plainly, it is not until we are threatened with never seeing something again that we appreciate it to a whole other level. Usually anyway. Mona Lisa was no exception. Miss Lisa, if you're nasty. I'm just kidding. That's a Janet Jackson reference for all you young listeners. As the months turned into a year, then it turned into 2 years. There's subsequently less coverage in the papers, and the case goes cold. The flame of hope flickered out. After all, there are bigger stories to cover that are taking place, like the Titanic sinking. That was also taking place during that time. November 1913, an Italian art dealer got a really odd letter from a signed Leonardo V, claiming to have the Mona Lisa. Oddly, it was written in Italian, but yet the return address is from Paris. The Italian art dealer didn't believe it at first, yet he did agree to meet with the writer just out of sheer curiosity. The Italian art dealer invited the local museum director to the meeting with this Leonard V. or Leonard, I should say. I don't know. The agreement was that it would be purchased for 500 lira, which is about $500,000 today. They met in a hotel room. Nay, they rendezvoused in a hotel room. And when this Leonard opened this trunk of complete junk, he's pulling out paint brushes and shoes and a mandolin and all kinds of stuff. But then he removed a fake bottom from the trunk. And dun, 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 hidden under that was something wrapped in silk. It was the lost Lisa. After looking at the back of the painting, the museum director confirmed, this really could be the real deal. But they told Leonard they would have to look at it under a microscope to see if they could see the real aged cracks on the wood. He's clearly too trusting because he allowed the two men to just walk out with the painting. Most speculate they probably assured him he would get a reward of some sort as well. Of course, he does not get a reward.
Oh.
He got 2 shiny, tricky bracelets, a.k.a. handcuffs. But it turned out to be none other than Vincenzo, too dumb to pull it off, Perugia. He was sentenced to 8 months in jail. And the most amusing part is that Vincenzo thought he was repatriating this priceless art back to where it was surely stolen from. So he thought. He said Da Vinci was Italian after all. He was also quoted saying, I fell victim to her smile. And, quote, I fell in love with her, unquote. Cuckoo. So whether he stole it out of some kind of patriotism for his, love of Italy, or whether he was a little bit crazy and he fell in love with her. Another History.com article also mentioned that he had written to someone saying that he was going to make his fortune really quickly. So he could have also been just planning to sell it for money. Now for the reveal of how it was executed. There are 2 stories. Some say that Perugia entered the Louvre at 7 a.m. The other common theory is that he and 2 others entered Sunday night and they slept in a storage room, leaving the storage around 7 a.m. and then everything going down. For sure, though, he was disguised with that white smock that he was issued when he did work there for that subcontracting company. He walked up to the painting, saw no one around early that morning, so he quickly removed it off the hooks on the wall and scurried off to a nearby service stairwell after stashing the painting under his smock. Again, this is what you were saying, Jose. It's kind of small, so yeah, you can just put it underneath your smock. After going down a few flights, he realized it's way too heavy. Remember, this isn't painted on a canvas. She was painted on a piece of poplar wood.
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, it's painted on wood. So it's wood and then it's a thick ass frame and then the glass pane. This is when he removed it from the glass and the frame and just kept going down the stairwell. But he got stuck from the door that led to a courtyard because it was locked. Desperation started to set in, so he removed the knob altogether, but he still couldn't get out. I guess there was another lock somewhere above. He heard footsteps coming near and probably thought, that's it, finito, I'm caught, whatever. It was a plumber, and that plumber asked about the missing knob and unlocked the top lock, letting the thief go out of the Louvre with the Mona Lisa. Not exactly the most polished plan, but still somewhat genius in its simplicity. I mean, if you think about it, what was it? Grab it, hide it underneath your smock, and walk out with it. Doesn't that kind of sound like a plan Cheech and Chong would come up with? I'll just hide it underneath my coat, man. What? What do you mean? You know what I mean? And then what are you going to do with it? I'll just walk out, bro.
Yeah, that didn't seem like it took very much planning. It seemed like something that was decided upon then and there to do.
Yeah, I don't think it was the most sophisticated plan either. And if it wasn't for the theft, she might not be valued at $2.5 billion today. Another documentary mentioned something interesting to think about, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts, Jose. If Vincenzo chose a different piece of art to steal, that would be the most famous piece that we would be talking about.
I agree. Going back to your Kurt Cobain analogy.
Yes.
I think that had he not killed himself, he would be like one of countless other 90s stars that faded away that nobody remembers. Because I'm probably going to be in the minority, but I don't find anything special or important about Nirvana or Kurt Cobain.
Oh my God. Editors, please edit that out. Just kidding.
I've never been a fan, and I think Kurt Cobain having killed himself was like the best thing that he could have done for his legacy. Because had he not, and had, let's say, the singer of Marcy's Playground killed himself, then we would all be saying, oh man, that song Sex and Candy is like the best song, and we'd be referring them like we do Nirvana.
No, that's awful. I feel like you just slapped me with a baguette. No, that's the worst. You are absolutely entitled to your opinion, so I will respect that for sure.
Yeah, no, and it is definitely just my opinion.
I also think it's very similar to the effect of, do you remember when the Virgin Mary showed up on a piece of French toast or some shit, and then that image went everywhere? They're like, oh my God, the Virgin Mary is this holy toast or something. So now this holy toast became super famous. And it was just because it had so much media coverage. I think that's really what happened. But in this particular case, obviously, the painting is beautiful. It really is a masterpiece. But there are a lot of beautiful pieces out there that I don't think most laymen know because they weren't stolen.
Yeah, they didn't get the press coverage that the Mona Lisa got.
Right. It's kind of interesting. So tell me your thoughts about this whole emotional roller coaster.
I still think it was Pablo Picasso that took it. I think they should give him another look, give him another shakedown.
Right? Dude, I can't believe that it turned out he had those stolen items, those statuettes.
Yeah, that definitely is very shady.
I was a little shocked, but wow, truth comes out.
Yeah. But no, that was really interesting that he fell in love with the Mona Lisa. But you think about it, it's what you said it was 1910?
Yeah, 1911. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I don't think photography was even that popular back then. And there was definitely no Pornhub, so he had to...
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to steal this Mona Lisa for all my masturbatory fantasies.
It's so strange. I mean, if you think about it, she's so plain, and this is what a lot of people say is her allure. She's not dressed like to the nines. She doesn't have like red velvet, which was obviously like a real big sign of like wealth. And she doesn't have one piece of jewelry on. But now that we know that her name is Lisa Gioconda, then they were like, oh, she was really, really wealthy.
Yeah, she was the girl next door of her time period.
She must have been. Yeah. And this is what people love about her. She's so like, she kind of draws you in still with her gaze, you know? It is a really pretty painting. There was another podcast that I listened to, Stuff You Should Know, and they also talked about the theft, and he also said, meh, don't really care for that painting. Well, I appreciate the time to share this one with you, and congratulations, lovelies. You've done it again, folks. You have learned along with us. Next time you see the Mona Lisa image, you can tell others around you how her theft made her one of the most popular paintings in history. I just saw her on a hoodie, so yeah, I'm sure you'll see it pretty soon. We hope you've been entertained by our chat and invite you to join us again next week. If you're enjoying our show, please leave us a review, tell a friend, and subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast.
Yeah.
Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, at Greetings TAC. Email us at greetingstac@gmail.com or leave us a voicemail at 915-317-6669 if you have a story to share with us or just want to say hello. Bonjour. That was fun.